chosen one. You didn't arrive here by accident today. You can already feel it. Something is shifting beneath the surface of your daily life. There's a quiet signal threading through your thoughts, repeating itself in subtle ways, pulling your attention back again and again. You've tried to ignore it, to rationalize it, or tell yourself it's nothing. But it keeps returning. It's clearer now. Undeniable. This isn't random. This isn't a coincidence. This is alignment beginning to reveal itself within your very soul. The moment you stop dismissing these small wonders is the moment everything starts to change in ways you simply can't reverse anymore. You asked the heavens for a sign, but maybe you didn't realize that signs don't always arrive as miracles. Sometimes they arrive as a person, a presence, or a pattern you just can't shake off, no matter how hard you try. The letter J isn't just a simple letter to you anymore. It's become a trigger, a holy doorway. The reason it stands out is because your awareness has been prepared by the Father to recognize it during this specific season. Not everyone sees what you're seeing. Not everyone feels what you're feeling in the depths of your quiet heart. That's because not everyone asked the question you asked in the silence of the night, when nobody else was even listening. You've been searching, even when you told yourself you weren't. You've been looking for a reason to believe in the path ahead. You felt that something in your life didn't fully align, like there was a missing piece that logic alone couldn't explain. And when the symbol started appearing through a name or a repeated sign, it activated something deep within your weary spirit. This isn't just a mental exercise. It's a spiritual frequency that your soul has finally caught. It's the part of you that operates beyond human explanation, recognizing a holy frequency that it called in many months ago. Pay attention to how it makes you feel when it arrives, not just what you think about it with your tired mind. There's a beautiful reason your focus locks onto it. There's a reason your mind returns to it so often. That isn't an obsession. It's awareness trying to break through the loud noise you've been conditioned to trust. You've been taught to dismiss these things, to label them as mere coincidence, or imagination, or simply overthinking your own life. But what if the very thing you were told to ignore is the exact mechanism through which divine guidance finally reaches you? What if this signal isn't the final destination, but the glowing pointer directing you toward the peace you've always desired? Because here's the truth. Most people aren't ready to accept yet. The Creator does not always speak in full sentences. He speaks in patterns, in repetition, and in subtle nudges that only become clear when you stop forcing logic to explain everything. And you've reached a point where logic alone isn't satisfying your hungry soul or giving you the peace you need. You've outgrown the need for everything to make perfect sense before you trust the gentle hand that is leading you home. Timing is never random in the kingdom of God, and you didn't notice these things before because you weren't ready. And now, you cannot unsee it because something inside you has shifted into alignment with the purpose He has for your life. Think about how many times it's shown up unexpectedly, in moments where it felt too precise to ignore or brush off. You told yourself it's probably nothing, but then it happened again and again until it reached a point of great clarity. That's how signals work. They don't force you. They invite you into a deeper conversation with the divine. They persist until you either recognize them or consciously choose to shut them out and return to the gray world of logic. This is much deeper than a letter or a name. It's about what recognizing it unlocks within you. It shifts your awareness from passive existence to an active, holy perception. You're not just moving through life anymore. You're starting to notice the beautiful layers of grace hidden beneath the surface of every single day. You begin to see connections where before there was only randomness. You start to feel guided instead of being lost. But with that awareness comes a decision. You can't stay in between these two worlds forever. You can't keep seeing the signal and pretending it means nothing while your heart is beating with a brand new hope. Once something is revealed to you, ignoring it doesn't return you to ignorance. It creates a deep internal conflict. That tension you've been feeling lately, that's exactly what it is. A part of you knows this truly matters. Another part is trying to keep things comfortable and predictable because comfort has kept you safe from the unknown for years. But staying comfortable hasn't taken you where you truly want to go, or where the Father is calling you to stand. That's why you asked for a sign in the first place. Something inside you knew there was so much more. And now that the signal has arrived, the question is no longer whether this is real or if it's just luck. The question is what you're going to do with it, and how you'll let it change your daily walk. This sign didn't enter your awareness just to be noticed. It entered to move you, to shift your reality. Maybe it's pushing you toward a decision you've been avoiding, or reflecting something back that's difficult to face. Maybe it's showing you a path that doesn't make sense yet, but feels undeniably right in your very core. You don't need to have all the answers right now. That's not how the walk of faith works. Clarity doesn't come all at once. It unfolds as you move forward with a heart full of gentle trust. But what you do need is absolute honesty with yourself and a willingness to stop pretending you don't feel him. Stop minimizing the significance of what keeps showing up. Stop waiting for permission to trust your own God-given perception. You already know this isn't random. You feel it every time it happens. That subtle shift, that pause, that's your awareness tapping you on the shoulder, saying it's time to look much closer at the world. The more you listen, the clearer it becomes. But if you keep ignoring it, the signal will only grow louder. Signals don't fade when they're meant for you. They repeat and evolve until you finally step into alignment. Resistance has a cost. It creates confusion, doubt, and a sense of being stuck without understanding why. Alignment, on the other hand, feels different. It brings a sense of direction, even when the path isn't yet visible. It doesn't mean everything becomes easy, but it feels right, like you're moving with the wind instead of against it. That's what this moment is offering you, an invitation to step out of the boat and walk upon the water. You asked for a signal, but you expected something loud, something that wouldn't require you to question your old self. Instead, you were given something subtle but persistent, requiring your awareness to activate the message for your soul. Because this was never just about receiving a sign. It was about becoming the kind of person who can truly see. And now, you're here, in that exact moment of recognition, where everything can either stay the same or begin to shift. Once that shift begins, it doesn't ask for permission. It grows deep within the soil of your heart. It expands quietly at first, almost unnoticeable, like a thought that lingers a second longer than it should during your day. Then it deepens. You start connecting dots you never paid attention to before in your busy, distracted life. Things that once felt random begin to feel placed intentional, as if something has been guiding your attention all along. Chosen one. Understand this. Clearly, signals are not always meant to comfort you. They are meant to awaken you. Awakening isn't always gentle. It disrupts the version of reality you were comfortable believing in for so many years. It challenges your usual way of thinking. It forces you to question what you once accepted without any resistance or thought. And that's exactly why many people turn away when they get close to recognizing something real and holy and true. Truth, when it first reveals itself, doesn't always feel safe. It feels unfamiliar to the ego and the mind. But you didn't come this far to stay asleep inside a life that feels incomplete, hollow, and cold. There's a reason this sign doesn't leave your awareness. There's a reason it keeps circling back to your heavy heart. You've tried to downplay it. You've told yourself it's just coincidence. But deep down, you know that coincidence doesn't repeat. Coincidence doesn't carry a feeling of destiny. And that feeling is the part you've been avoiding fully trusting until now. Trusting it means admitting that something bigger is at play. And that's where the quiet fear usually enters. It's not a loud fear. It's a quiet hesitation. A voice that asks if you're just reading too much into things. That voice isn't there to guide you. It's there to keep you within the boundaries of the predictable. But staying where you are doesn't guarantee safety. It only guarantees that you'll remain exactly as you are. You didn't ask for a sign because everything was fine. You asked because something inside you was ready to evolve. Evolution happens inside movement and inside trust, even when you don't have full clarity of the road ahead. This sign isn't asking you to understand everything. It's simply asking you to pay attention to the present moment. Observe what changes within you when it appears. Notice the thoughts that follow, the emotions that rise up. Those reactions aren't random. They're revealing something about what you're ready to face in this new season. This is where most people make a mistake, focusing on the external symbol and ignoring the internal response of the soul. The symbol is only the trigger. You are the meaning. Without your awareness, it's just a letter. With your awareness, it becomes a signal, a mirror showing you something deeper than the surface of your physical reality. The more you engage with that awareness, the more it expands, and the more it reveals about your true purpose. You may not see the full path yet, but you aren't supposed to see the end from the beginning. If everything was clear, there would be no need for trust, no need for growth, no need for real transformation. The uncertainty you feel right now isn't a flaw in the process. It is the process of your strengthening. And yet, even in that uncertainty, there is something undeniable that you feel when you're alone in the quietest hours. You feel more alert, more aware, more connected to something you can't fully explain to another human being today. That isn't your imagination. It's your perception evolving into something much more refined and spiritually attuned. You're beginning to see beyond the surface. You're sensing patterns instead of dismissing them as mere accidents. That's what makes this moment powerful. Once you start seeing like this, you can never truly go back again. And that's why ignoring it feels so uncomfortable now. Because part of you has already crossed that sacred threshold. A part of you already knows there's more to this than you can logically explain with your human brain. Trying to force yourself back into old ways of thinking only creates tension and a sense of deep spiritual fatigue. You've felt that tension. The pull between what feels true and what feels safe. Between following and pretending. That's the space you're standing in right now. And the longer you stay here, the stronger the tension becomes. Not because something is wrong, but because something is trying to move and breathe and grow inside your very own heart. Movement requires a choice, not a perfect choice or a fully informed one, but a simple, very honest choice. Are you going to keep dismissing what you feel, or are you going to start exploring the depth of this holy mystery? Exploring doesn't mean blindly believing. It means being open, curious, and willing to observe without shutting the door. It means giving yourself permission to experience what's unfolding without needing to control the outcome. You don't need to define this signal right now. You don't even need to know where it's leading, but you do need to acknowledge that it's affecting you and that it's showing up for a very specific reason. The moment you truly accept that, something shifts. You stop resisting the flow of the living water within. You start allowing it to unfold. And when you do that, you begin to notice even more alignment in your life. More patterns, more moments that feel too precise to ignore, begin to fill up your days with a new light. Once your awareness opens, it doesn't just stay focused on one signal. It expands to everything connected to your path. That's when things start to accelerate internally. Your perception sharpens. Your intuition begins to strengthen every single day. Your ability to sense what feels right or wrong becomes clearer. Decisions that once felt confusing begin to feel direct, not because you have more information, but because you trust the Father more than your own limited understanding. That is the real purpose behind all of this, to reconnect you with your ability to recognize the voice of God. You've always had that ability. It was just buried under doubt and the need for everything to be proven. But life doesn't operate only through logic. There is a layer beneath it that is subtle and very responsive. J is your entry point, a simple symbol carrying a deeper message that is felt in the awareness of your heart. The more you lean into that awareness, the more it begins to guide you by showing you what feels aligned. You'll start noticing it in other areas of your life, in situations that suddenly feel off when they didn't before, opportunities that appear unexpectedly, conversations that seem to carry more meaning than they ever did. It's not that these things weren't happening before. It's that you weren't seeing them with this clarity. Now you are. And that changes everything. Life stops feeling random and starts feeling like a conversation with the divine. It starts feeling responsive, like there's an interaction between your internal state and your external reality every single day. What you focus on begins to shape what you notice, and what you notice begins to influence what unfolds before you. That isn't something to fear. It's something to understand and embrace with a heart full of holy joy. If you ignore it, you remain unconscious. But if you engage, you begin to work with the spirit of grace. That is where real transformation begins, in the consistent choice to pay attention to the small things he is showing you. Jay didn't appear to give you all the answers. It appeared to wake you up to the truth of his presence. The questions you ask now will determine everything that comes next in your walk with the King of all kings. Your questions won't sound like the old ones. They'll feel deeper, more precise. You'll notice that you're no longer asking, "Why is this happening to me?" but "What is this showing me?" That shift changes everything about how you experience what's unfolding in your world and in your private heart. You stop positioning yourself as someone confused by life, and you start becoming someone actively engaged with the divine. You step into participation instead of observation. That requires a level of awareness few people ever truly choose. Trying to control what this means will only create more confusion for your mind and your spirit, but observing it will start revealing patterns that don't need to be forced or pushed by your own human will. Chosen one. Look at how your awareness has already changed since you started noticing the patterns that surround your life. You're noticing timing in ways you didn't before. You're sensing meaning in moments that once felt ordinary. Even your memory is starting to connect things differently, bringing up past experiences that suddenly feel relevant today. That isn't your mind being random. That is your perception reorganizing itself around a new level of holy understanding. That is what awakening actually feels like. A gradual reordering of everything you thought you understood about your life. This signal is acting like a thread. Every time you follow it, it leads you into a deeper layer. It's not always comfortable, but it's undeniably real in the way it affects your peace and your sense of the future. This is where trust becomes essential. Trust that your awareness isn't working against your own good today. Trust that if something continues to show up with this level of consistency, it deserves your full and loving attention. Dismissal is easy, but it leaves you empty. Recognition is a path that leads to a much fuller life. You can always choose to say it's nothing, but every time you do, you'll feel that subtle, internal resistance. That quiet knowing that you just turned away from something important will linger in the back of your mind all day. Over time, that builds into a disconnection where you start to feel out of alignment with your true purpose. The moment you choose to lean in, the confusion starts to organize itself into a beautiful picture of divine grace. Pieces begin to make sense in fragments, and those fragments begin to form a clearer picture of where you're going. You start realizing that this signal is connected to your decisions and to the environment you're living in. It's influencing how you see people and how you interpret situations that used to cause you a great deal of stress. It's like a filter that's been activated within you to highlight what aligns with your deeper, holy awareness. And once that filter is active, you can ignore it, but you will still feel its presence in your daily life. You've crossed into a space where meaning matters more than convenience. That's where your growth begins to accelerate. You begin to understand that clarity is something you step into as you move your feet forward in the darkness. Every small step you take in alignment with what you feel adds to the clarity you've been seeking lately. This is why the sign keeps returning to ground you in the awareness you're building with the Father. It acts as a checkpoint that says, you're still on the right path. Keep paying attention today. It often appears when you're questioning yourself the most, when you feel the most alone and afraid. That isn't coincidence. That's alignment responding to your state meeting you halfway in your time of great need. You take a step in awareness, and the signal becomes clearer to your eyes and to your very open heart. You doubt, and it shows up again, slightly stronger, slightly harder to ignore than it was the day before. That is feedback from the heavens. The more you recognize it, the more empowered you become in your own life. You're aware that your internal state influences what you notice. That creates a beautiful loop of holy transformation. But are you ready? Are you ready for the change that comes with this level of awareness and deep trust? It means letting go of old ways of thinking. It means outgrowing environments that no longer serve the person you're becoming. It means facing parts of yourself you've avoided because they were easier to ignore than to truly heal. This sign is pulling you inward, asking you to look at yourself with that same level of deep attention. Notice your reactions. Notice your patterns. Question why certain things affect you the way they currently do. Become aware not just of what you see, but how you see the world through the eyes of faith. That level of awareness changes your entire experience of reality as you walk with Him through the valley. Once you understand your own patterns, you stop being unconsciously driven by them. You start making choices from your heart. That shift begins to reflect externally in ways you can't fully predict, but you can definitely feel in your soul. Your life begins to move more intentionally, aligned with what actually resonates with your true self. The recurring signal becomes a marker that you're still connected to that deeper level of awareness. But don't mistake familiarity for completion. The process is always deepening and growing as you walk forward. What remains is your commitment to staying aware and not slipping back into that automatic, gray way of living. That is the real test of the chosen one to stay connected even when the signal becomes subtle and quiet again. It will become subtle to allow it to integrate into your very being, to become a part of your sight. It becomes part of how you see the world, rather than something that stands out in a loud way. When that happens, you'll realize you were never being led away from yourself, but deeper into the truth. Everything this sign triggered pointed back to your ability to recognize meaning in a world that often feels meaningless. That ability, once fully activated, applies to every decision you make and every direction you consider for your future. It applies to every moment where you pause and ask yourself if this path feels aligned with the peace of God. Because that feeling of alignment is the language you're learning to understand with every beat of your heart. And like any language, it becomes clearer the more you use it and the more you trust the one who speaks. You aren't losing control. You're refining it by shifting from external control to an internal, wholly intuitive direction. That direction leads you exactly where you're meant to go, even if you don't see the end yet. So when it appears again, don't just notice it. Pause. Feel what changes inside your own spirit. Ask yourself what it's reflecting back to you in that exact moment. Every appearance carries context. Every repetition carries a slightly different meaning, depending on where you are internally when it finally catches your eyes. The more you tune into that, the more precise your understanding becomes until you no longer have any doubt. You will know not because someone told you, but because you've experienced it enough times to recognize the Father's hand. That recognition is what changes how you move forward from here, into the bright, promised future He's prepared. Once that certainty settles into you, something even deeper begins to unfold in the silence of your own private room. You start to feel it even in the absence of the signal, because what you were searching for is now inside. Every time you chose awareness over comfort, you were building a temple of peace that cannot be shaken by the world. Chosen one. This is where everything becomes real in a way you can never undo or forget. You're noticing yourself, how your mind moves, how your energy responds to the different people in your life. That awareness follows you into moments that have nothing to do with the original sign, but feel just as holy. That's when you realize it was never just about a symbol. It was about activating your divine and true purpose. It was about bringing you to a point where you could see beyond the surface and recognize the hand of God. Once you reach that point, life can't go back to how it was before, because you have seen the light. You've felt too much and recognized something within yourself that refuses to go back to sleep. You might try to return to the old state where everything was simple, but something will always feel off, because once awareness expands, going backward feels like disconnection. It feels like a heavy weight upon your soul. That contrast becomes your proof. The difference between alignment and avoidance, between the light and the shadow. You stop looking for external confirmation because you begin to experience the meaning directly in your heart. Your choices will begin to change subtly at first, until you are walking in a brand new way of life. There will be a hesitation before saying yes to things that don't feel right to your newly awakened spirit. The pull toward things you would have ignored before will grow stronger. You will find peace in the quiet moments. These aren't random changes. They're the result of your awareness integrating into your very actions and your daily words. This is where the signal becomes part of you, and you become a light to those who are still lost. You're navigating your life with a level of depth you didn't have before. Your reality reflects that new depth. You'll notice that certain things fall away naturally as you step into the light of the Father's love. Situations that once felt important lose their grip. Patterns that used to repeat begin to feel heavy and old. New things begin to enter your awareness, ideas and connections that resonate with this new level of perception. It won't always be comfortable. Growth requires us to leave the old shell behind and step into the new. There will be moments of uncertainty where you question if you're interpreting the whispers of the Spirit correctly. That space can feel unstable, but it's actually the transition of a soul being born into a much higher calling. The most important thing you can do is stay present. Stay honest with yourself about what you're truly feeling, because the moment you start lying to yourself to feel safe, you disconnect from the growth the Father has for you. You didn't come this far to lose that connection. You came this far because you were ready to wake up. This sign was the doorway, and now the responsibility is to stay aligned with the truth you've already seen. Continue paying attention to your internal state. Notice when the peace of God is resting upon your heart. This is the level you're operating on now. Conscious awareness guided by the hand of the one who made you. That awareness will guide you, but only if you trust it enough to listen when the world is being very loud. There will always be noise, opinions, and old habits trying to pull you back into the dark and the cold. But your relationship with that noise has changed. You are now an observer who chooses the path of the light. You gain the space to choose differently. That is where your true power, as a child of God, truly lives. Every time you choose alignment, you strengthen the connection that was activated by that first small sign. You reinforce the truth until you don't need the signal to remind you, because you have become the message yourself. You've integrated the awareness. You've allowed it to reshape how you see every person and every situation in your life. You begin to move with a sense of direction that doesn't need the world to tell you who you are. You trust your decisions because they come from a place of peace instead of fear and confusion. You stop searching because you found the one who was searching for you all along in the dark. That's when you understand the universe didn't just send a sign. God answered your heart. He responded to your readiness to look beyond the obvious, to start seeking the kingdom that is within you. This sign was the response that matched your level of awareness. But now, you are ready for so much more. Guidance becomes less about symbols and more about the steady resonance of the Spirit dwelling deep within your soul. You'll look back at this time and see it as a precise moment where the door was finally opened wide. You'll understand why it had to be subtle, so that you would have to seek Him with all your heart. If it were loud, you might have followed the sign instead of following the one who sent it. Instead, you were invited to become aware step by step until the realization came from the very center of your being. And that makes all the difference. What comes from the Spirit stays with you through every storm and every trial. It remains as a steady sense of knowing that you carry into every room and every conversation you have. Chosen one, you are standing in the space where you know that something permanent has changed within you. From this point forward, every interaction carries that light with it as you walk in the favor of the living God. Every moment where you choose alignment is a victory for the kingdom that is growing inside of your beautiful heart. The signal did its job. It guided you to this point of awakening and deep peace with the Father today. Now the path is about how you choose to move with the truth that has been revealed to your seeking soul. The moment you accept this without doubt is the moment you realize you were always being held in His hands. Close your eyes for just one moment. Feel the warmth of His love surrounding you like a soft, golden light. Take a deep breath and thank Him for the signs that led you here and for the journey that is beginning. Please share your story in the comments below so we can celebrate the beautiful way God is moving in your life.